Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Maker's Bar. We're trying to create 1 million leaders. I have one of them here today in Vignesh. He founded MyClone. Really excited to dive into it. And we're going to go quick today. It's going to be a 20 to 30-minute conversation. Vignesh, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Troy. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I was really excited when we came across each other on LinkedIn. MyClone might be the single best name for an AI company I've ever heard of. I'm not even joking about that. So would love to just jump straight into it. What is your background? What is your story? What brought you to founding MyClone?
Yeah, thanks for the compliment. Appreciate that. So naming is tough, right? Like as they say in probably software, that there are two things. One of them is naming software or naming variables. That said, my background have been doing software engineering for 13 years. Specialized in enterprise servers, worked at Ticketmaster and Cloudflare. At Cloudflare, I led pretty much like the core infrastructure, like backing 20% or 25, roughly 25% of the internet. With that, then I've done a couple of startups. The one that I'm currently working on, as you said, it's MyClone, which is an AI associate for knowledge professionals. Specifically, we are doing for CPAs.
So what brought you into, I don't know if you know my background. I actually got a CPA. I'm not doing any CPA work these days, but what brought you into that? Was it just your first traction was there? Was there a specific opening there?
Yeah, definitely. We didn't start from CPAs though, to be honest. The journey was like, what? Oh, we will build a AI associate or clone, right? As the name says, my clone, for knowledge professionals. That's, if you think about it, pretty much anybody who is sitting in front of the keyboard, right? Like consultants, coaches, like executive coach, business coach. Um, then we started seeing some interest from CPAs specifically. A couple of them came inbound. Then we starting to have conversations with them. It's kind of made sense. The reason because is that one, they have a very good body of work, like knowledge of work. um, it's all, they have like a very good playbooks, frequently asked questions. And even if you think about it, people are just asking the same kind of 100 to 200 questions to any CPAs. Less dynamic, right? Things doesn't change overnight. Like if the same website where you have to go and file your S corp or a formation of LLC, it's the same. It's not like an AI itself like changing every day and you have to keep up to date. So these are some of the attributes that made it very clear that there is a very good interest from the CPAs. They also charge, means like roughly 400 to 500 or maybe $1,000 per hour, depends on the CPAs. They do a lot of obviously workshops, conduct or educate people, awareness. Those are all like very good attributes for building a clone for themselves.
Okay, gotcha. So I kind of want to go two different routes there. The first would be uh, down how you have changed the businesses themselves. Like what has the feedback been? Like you've saved me so much time, or I'm billing more. Like, what has that feedback been? And where have you made that impact? And then after that, we can kind of go down the AI route itself.
Sure. So, I mean, for any knowledge professionals, we realized that our service industry, it's about job to be done for them, right? Whether it's CPAs or CFPs, financial planners, or obviously attorneys, right? Like all of them have like a job to be done for them, and whether you can do that for them, right? Like whether you can, that means either you can do it itself, whether it could be something like an associate level or intake. All of these are someone is doing that. That's really what kind of we realized that, hey, that means we need to build like a very good rigid workflows for any of these regulated industries with proper guardrails. That's what takes in from like a POC, from a demo to actually something someone could implement in any of the professional services industry.
That makes sense. Yeah. Oh, keep going.
Yeah, that's the biggest one. I mean, we can go deeper into that. Some of the other ones are like lead capture, for example, right? Like every business end of the day really focuses on educated and qualified leads.
Yeah, that was what I'm also interested in as I'm learning more and more about AI, and I'm sure our audience is learning more and more about AI every day. It is interesting. Like people say, hey, here's this new gold rush, right? Like
Yeah.
you can go do anything, but what have been, you've already mentioned it with, hey, we need certain types of data, we need repeatability, those sorts of things. What have you found as you've gone down your own journey here with AI that has been the most important things to be able to build a successful AI company?
Trust.
Trust.
The factor that, yeah, your users can trust it to have an AI, right? Like whether it's for engaging this AI, like if you especially if you're thinking of front facing, right? That means they are putting the AI be the voice or the face or the interface for their brand. There are obviously regulations are in place. You can't say certain things, do certain things, um, or even if you're using it for the back end of it, which is somewhat okay, right? Because there is always some human in the loop. Like even you're like more of a co-pilot. Hey, help me create this draft or demand letter, or help me summarize this all the statements, and then somebody is like taking a look and making sure that, irrespective of it, I think trust is the biggest factor for building an iconic AI company.
And how do you build trust? How do you go about building that trust from day one, and how has that changed to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, there's no easy way. Like some of the implement like ways to get that adopted is obviously letting the users, build their own trust, right? Like you as a vendor or a seller, you can say anything, you can show anything. Doesn't mean like things like case studies, obviously, right? Like, oh, testimonials, fine, those are all okay. We should do, but it's more about how do they themselves, have the trust in the system. So which means like doing a POC or like kind of a blast radius, right? Like a targeted smaller blast area to begin with. Hey, let's just do this for this one specific use case for this amount of period of time. And if something happens, obviously we can take it out, roll back. We'll keep the damage control basically. That's another way of how you can practically bring the trust. And then third one is obviously provide a good services and support, right? Like be hop on a call with the partners or anyone, right, like from the team, be responsive and be transparent.
And have you found, actually, as you mentioned, partners, anyone from the team, have you found that your product has been, or really AI in general, what you're building has been more useful for those small firms, large firms, or is it really all across the board there that you found has been useful?
I mean, at least our focus is solo to small, right? Like typically 5 to 25, 5 to 50, what like we like to say. That's where the sweet spot and the most impact is. But again, I mean, I'm pretty sure it could have similar kind of impact for larger firms too. But just that, our kind of focus is on the small firms or smaller firms.
Gotcha. And is that something that you just, again, got traction with the smaller firms, or was that an intentional choice?
It is and more of an intentional choice for multiple reasons, but the biggest one I think is that it's really where the opportunity lies. If you really want to compete on the other end of it, there is a lot of, you have to spend money on research, on tokens, literally, um, and still the ROI is debatable, right? Like, there are also LLM providers, bigger companies that are also looking at what you're doing pretty closely. But the thing that most excites me personally, that the smaller firms, is that the opportunity to get to work directly with the partners, right? These are the owners or whatnot, where you could have a conversation with them and really building the customer relationship. Part of it is what got me excited and why we are focusing on the smaller firms.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And um, working with owners, partners, founders, I mean, it energizes me. So like being able to talk to you right now, like, I love it. It energizes myself, and I get to ask you all specific questions. So on that note, we can, since we're moving quickly here, we can move into kind of that founder psychology part of the conversation. And on that note, what has been the significant challenge of, or the significant challenges of building in the early stages? So going from 0 to 1, what were those significant challenges?
It's about figuring out the ICP, what they say, right? Like ideal customer or client profile. Because it all end of the day starts from who is it for. If you can't describe what whether your product or service is for clearly, who is it for, then nothing sticks, right? It's kind of everything trickles down from there. Because if you identify who is it for, then it's clear what you do for them. Then you can figure out how you do it for them. I like to say that half the battle in the 0 to 1 phase is just figuring out who is it for. even say CPAs. In that CPA, which one of the firms, like which category, or law, for example, personal injury, litigation, which one of them it is, and figuring that out is going to take you, is the half the battle.
No, that makes sense. And then something I hear a lot as well, on the other side of ICP is the offer. So how did you get down your offer? Is that something you're still refining day to day now, or how did you go about actually going to your ICP with the specific offer that you had?
Yeah, I mean, the way meta way to think about it, the offer is that see what they are currently paying for, whether it's like intake, for example. Okay, you have like people who are taking those up, or maybe you are doing it yourself. We don't know. Maybe you are offering these coffee chats for 30 minutes or discovery calls, whatever. That's one way to look at it, so that you know that they are actually they are just not saying it, they are putting their money. The other way is that what they are, the other services and tools they are paying for. Maybe they're paying for Google, or spending money on Google ads, local service ads, right? These are very concrete way to measure that they are actually spending it. And then whether your solution is like 5 to 10x better. If you don't, then I mean, may want to go back to the first step, that maybe we don't have the compelling offer here.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
that
just
makes a
how
ton
I
of
think.
sense.
I gave you the meta of it. I mean, if you want us to specifically say what we do and what our offer is, I mean, our offer is simple, that we can have your basically a clone or persona does the FAQs, that basically the initial touch point, so that you can have like a educated and qualified lead for your service or business.
Perfect. A great little elevator pitch there, truly. Um, and honestly, it makes sense too. Again, the name MyClone. There's a lot of companies out there trying to build what you've built, and I'm sure there's a ton of competition that maybe even in the shadows. So as you're building this company, I'm sure there's adversity. I'm sure there's doubt. What do you do when those moments come up? When those days, weeks of adversity have come, or just doubt is setting in? How do you handle that?
Yeah, certainly. I think it comes to my mind. I don't know about other founders, but in the 0 to 1 phase, I think it's quite common. The thing that reinforces me is the real usage, real feedback, the raw feedback from the customers, right? Like the customers who don't have any favors for you to do, right? Like they will tell you that if it's not good, they will tell you it's not good. Um, because they are not your friends and family. These are some of the people you outbounded, or they came to you through inbound, looking at your Reddit comments, or LinkedIn posts, whatever, right? So that's a good way to hey, why did they come to us, what did they tell us clearly? Okay, maybe they are finding something value in it, right? Like go back and then the question becomes that, can we find more of such people then? Because if two people are finding it valuable, then I'm probably sure there are 20 other people out there. It's just that they haven't yet likely discovered you, or you haven't discovered them.
Great point. How do you go about that discovery process? I mean, so my day to day, I am in sales. That has been the part of the corporate world that has grabbed me the most. That shocker, I love talking to people. I love hearing the stories. That ended up being where I was going. So I work there. I work in this discovery quite often, but that
Wow.
is a hard thing to do. So you're working with marketing, you're working with sales. What has been your formula for having people discover you? Has it been outbound, inbound? What is it still an ongoing journey?
Yeah, it is still very much an ongoing journey. We should have like a separate conversation just on this topic, to be honest, right? I might even take a like a master class from you if you're open to it. Yeah. With that said, I mean, I think you can correct me if I'm wrong. By the way, this is, to be honest, area. As I said, I've been doing software engineer, like developer, for 13 years. Sales and marketing is fairly new to me, and I like to say myself, now a chief glorified sales officer, right? Like CEO stands for. With that said, I mean, here is my top ways how I'm thinking of. Is one is obviously the outbound. You send people. You have like the hypothesis that hey, these firms, as I said, 5 to 50, they have this problem. This is what we know, status quo, and here is our pitch. Okay, it's so direct. Can you get the message to them? And if they are one of those people, okay, you hit a gold. Okay, go for it. Sell. Email, LinkedIn, all of these are phone calls or SMS. Okay, fine. Second one is that letting people come to you, right? Like you don't know everybody who has this. I mean, they might have the problem, but it's not top of their mind, whatnot. Then that's where the inbound comes into the picture. Okay, how do you make yourself available when they are looking for a solution or when they are having a problem? Um, Now I think it's just fairly SEO, and there are some other flavors of it like AEO and GEO. But most of the time it's just like a good quality, kind of value in the form of a content, or maybe in the form of lead magnet, right? Like tools, free tools and free resources that kind of adjacent to their core workflow, so that you are kind of like giving the value to them first.
Absolutely. Giving value first has been key. Anything that I've ever gone, you want to give value first. And um, it's interesting that how you mentioned the inbound, because part of the skills that I want to build actually myself have been more of that marketing, the top of funnel. I'm very
Mhm.
confident if I have a good product in front of me, and if there really is a need there, I can find that need and I can get you that product. I'm very confident in that bottom of funnel sales role.
Mhm.
It has been a journey trying to figure out and talking to people about, hey, how do you get discovered?
Yeah.
References have been huge, but that those word of mouth can get you far, but only so far. And um, this is, like you said, this is a whole discussion we could have.
Yes.
And maybe we'll have that in the future. But since you only have, oh man, running out of time already, about 10 minutes here left, I would love to hear more about your plans for growth for the company, and we'll start talking about the future. What's coming in the next 5 years? What is your vision here?
I'll be very point blank and honest. I don't know. This is something I wish I can paint a really good picture saying that, what, we are going to do this XYZ and acquire blah blah blah. But I don't think that's, I have, nowhere near. The reason I say that is that it's just things are so much changing, right? You don't really know for the most part. Even if you find product market fit, you're still kind of like you're one model release away from your entire product market fit being taken away. So in that front, I just feel it's just, the nature of it is so dynamic right now. With that said, our goal is that everybody, every knowledge professional, is likely going to have some form of an assistant, right? Like an associate. Um, why? Because these are some of the technology that wasn't just possible like 2 or 3 years ago, and right now it's possible, right? You can have like a really good associate who could help you have this kind of initial conversation or provide you like a support and so, like, literally, you have to hire people earlier in the past, but now you're like, hey, there's a new opportunity come into the picture. So we really want to double down on that. So our goal is like just picking up CPAs and really see how we can expand from there, right? Like any, again, as I said in the beginning of the call, any knowledge professionals, professional services industry like legal or CFPs, wealth management and consultants is where we want to go further.
Amazing, yeah. And the agility there that you can build is super important. I'm blanking on the name, um, but there was one guy who built a company. It was a video AI type of thing, and someone randomly from ChatGPT actually downloaded it on the personal Gmail and found, oh man, this would be great for our voice AI. This is exactly what we're looking for. So it wasn't even the fit he was imagining, but he ended up actually working with them, and the company blew up. So in this AI space, agility is so important. So it's actually, you can say you don't know, but just the fact that you brought that up is all right. Like that makes sense. This is, it seems like you have that good mindset there. So very glad to hear that. And on the other side of that coin of, hey, opportunity, there's also risk. It's a two-sided coin, a two-sided sword. So how do you approach risk? I mean, starting the business is risky, but even as you're building the business, how do you approach risk? Is there a certain mindset around it when those big decisions are being made or thought about?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's part of the builder's risk, right? That's why really not a lot of them won't do it. Don't do it. The fact that it's likely going to fail, right? It's not going to work for the most part. Um, it's just how the nature of it. You have to try so many, I mean, including companies like Google, right? They try so many products and they fail. Killedbygoogle.com. It's quite popular website where they list like how many products that are killed by Google. Why? Because if you don't take risk, then you are going to be obsolete. So Google knows that. It even hurts their reputation, but it kind of prevents from an existential crisis that if you don't try it enough, then you might just be one day obsolete. Killed by Google.com might have Google itself. So that's why we get to see so many of these bigger and mature companies with good R&D, with good, what do you say, like research teams, etc. Still couldn't make it out. So in terms of how I think about it specifically, it's like obviously the one-way door and two-way door, right? Like what are those? Some are like very like non-reversible decisions that are like for example, trust, right? Like it's very very important. If you lose the trust of your customer, then it's just going to be very hard to recoup it. Then there are decisions now, especially with code based. You can write a code like a new feature, and if you don't like it, you can just remove it. Like trial experiment, right? Like these are very like a two-way door decisions. You can try it. If it doesn't work out, you can come back again. But overall, the point is that you have to be trying enough of these, taking enough bets and enough risk.
And how would you define success or winning the bet? So how do you define, success in terms of the business and then also just in terms of yourself?
Yeah, the success. I mean, before we do, like we have this. Everything is an experiment, right? At least that's how I approach at this early phase. That whether the outbound, for example, we talked about. Okay, what is the before we do it? Can you first start? What's the success will look like? Somewhat there, and then how much we are getting there, whether it's like outbound, okay, number of people be reaching out, getting responses, or inbound, or shipping a new feature. Okay, do we know data that how much of it is being adopted? Does even one user touched it? If you don't know if they aren't, then obviously it's not success. So that's how we measure everything, the product side of the things or the business side of the things with MyClone. uh, your other question about personally, for me, it's always gives me more pleasure that getting to see your product being used by your customers, right? Like usage is the number one success how I measure. Not revenue, not ARRs, not MRR. It's just usage, because
I love that
ev-
answer.
everything drives from there, right? If they use it, they will find a way to pay you. Don't worry about that.
I love that answer. I don't know if I've ever gotten that answer actually. That's a really good way to define success. And you mentioned we before. So how big is the team?
Oh, we are a team of four.
Team
All
of
of them
four.
are,
And is
yes,
it
developers.
all developers?
Yes.
Okay, so how do you foster innovation within your team? How do you instill values? I mean, developers, I imagine you're not going into the office every day.
Yeah, we are more remote, everybody. How do we instill the culture, right? I mean, some of the things that I talked about, right? Like, this is at least how I think about, but obviously it doesn't mean it's the right answer. So definitely I want everyone in our team to chime in. And the way I think about every one of the team members as like co-founders, basically. All of them are co-founders. Everyone is, moving towards to this one goal of how do we get more usage of our product from our customers and do whatever it takes to get to that goal.
I like that. It actually reminds me of Roku's. Oh man, I'm thinking on his name too, but their new CEO, they have one goal. And
Yeah.
this large company, the one goal is, hey, we're looking for X number of customers. I don't remember what number of customers it is, but we want X number of customers. If your job's not going towards that,
Yeah.
then get a new job or fix what you're doing. So it's an interesting leadership style, and it's one that I've ran across before, and I love that. And again, usage is so unique, but it's such a great answer too. It's like, of course, like if as long as people are using it, that means they like it. If we can get them to talk to us, as you mentioned before, customer feedback, we can get them to use it more, and the money will follow. It all makes sense. I love that answer. My mind's kind of stuck on it, but we have very very little time, so a couple of last questions I always like to ask.
Sure.
First would be, what books, leaders, classes, experiences, what has inspired you? What stuck with you throughout your career? And then after that, if you had a closing message to anyone looking to start a company, what would that be? So first, anything that inspired you.
Yeah. There is one book clearly. It's called Give and Take by Adam Grant, a professor from Wharton College of Business, University of Pennsylvania's Business School. The book name again, it's called Give and Take. He categorizes people into three buckets. One is givers, other one is takers, and the last one is matchers. If you put it in a distribution bell curve, obviously matchers is the majority, 80% of them, right? You do a favor for them, they will do a favor back to you. They match. Then there are obviously takers, who takes everything, right? They come to you when they need help. I'm pretty sure you have run into such folks, right? Everywhere. I mean, they are there. You know who they are. Then there is small category of people which are called the givers. They give first with nothing in return, nothing in expectation, and they keep doing that, and then eventually, you will find a way to give it back to them. We talked about give first, right? Like you said that even the cold outbound or whatever, right? How do you find a way to first give?
Yeah.
Just a phenomenal book. I mean, yeah, I loved it. I mean, that's just the philosophy stuck with me. There are other books, but this is by far the most impactful book that I have ever read. With respect to anybody who is starting new, my feedback is going back to that, you figure out at the very early days of who is it for, because everything else will change. I mean, even sometimes even the who is it for also changes, but your goal at that point is just figuring out, like, you are quickly iterating, what I'm going to try out the CPAs, okay, I'm going to try out CFPs, I'm going to, if you don't know, right, I mean, some people do know, which is good, great. If you don't know, then all your focus has to be just figuring that group, the set of people, do enough experiments as quickly as possible to get to that ICP, because everything after that trickles down from there. It just gets so much more easier.
I appreciate your time. It's been a jam-packed half hour here. I, you mentioned before actually when, before we hit record, if I'm going to pick up my kids from school or something, I want to be able to listen to this very quickly. I think there's a ton of value here for anyone that's in business looking to start a business. So really appreciate you carving out a half hour with us here, and wish you luck. Can't wait to follow the journey and just stay in touch throughout it.
Thank you very much, Troy. Thanks for having me. I hope the listeners find it valuable.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. Until next time, sir.
Thank you.